nervous about it, and I hope I get the job, and I might not get the job, and da-da-da-da-da. But you might need to do it again, maybe imagining that you've failed and you've gone home to tell your parents, your spouse, I didn't get the job, yeah? So sometimes there's several different aspects you need to do for it. If you use it to work with things that are very, very stressful, it can be very difficult to start to do it because you're frightened of the distress you'll experience. So in those situations, you can imagine that the scene is playing out on a television the first time, so you're distancing yourself from it slightly, yeah? So it's being played out on a television, it might be even in black and white if it's really stressful, and then you do it again with the color TV, and then you do it again, imagining yourself doing it. So you do it in several steps, not necessarily all at the time, maybe over several days. Okay, so that's emotional stress release. It's a really, really very simple, very good technique. It's very easy to teach to people. And I've taught this to lots of people who've afterwards said to me, it's absolutely amazing. I taught it to a colleague who was a very keen mountain biker, and he'd had a very bad accident going downhill very fast on his bike. And he was very nervous now about going downhill. And I said to him, okay, hold these and just replay the accident, replay your fear. You know, he did it several times, different aspects of the problem. And he sent me an email a week later saying, I cannot believe the difference that's made. I've been out on my bike and I now can go as fast as I used to go before. All that fear about, oh, I might fall, I might have an accident, has gone, and I'm back to riding my bike like I used to. So at very simple, everyday levels, you can help people. And of course, as we know, the stress is a big factor in people getting sick. So every little bit of stress we can help remove from people helps them to be less stressed, helps them to be happy. And maybe for people who find it difficult to meditate, maybe you can help them by, if it's because their minds are all of a jangle with other things, and so they find it really difficult to quieten the mind, then you could do some of this emotional stress release work first, before you talk to them about meditating, before you get them to meditate, yeah? And for sick people, I mean, somebody said the other day, I think yesterday, that some people are too sick to meditate. So again, you could, I mean, if somebody's really ill and doesn't have the energy to hold their emotions, these points, you could hold them for them. You can hold them on children, on babies. If a baby's screaming and crying, and you don't, obviously, you want to know why and put it right, but sometimes you just don't know what's going on, or the baby's crying and screaming about something that you can't put right. Then if you hold these points, that will often calm the baby down, yeah? And certainly in the West, and I'm not sure about here, but people often do this when they're upset, yeah? Oh dear, yeah? Do people do that here as well? Oh, and what are they doing? They're instinctively holding the points, yeah? They don't know that's that doing, but that's so often, oh dear me, you know, oh, I'm so upset. And they're actually holding the points, so somehow intuitively, they're doing the right thing for themselves. So, yeah, we could cover that. So the thymus tap, as I said, the thymus tap is a general tap used to rebalance the energy, to make you feel better. You can use it in all sorts of different situations. So, you know, if you're doing something that makes you nervous before you go in the door, quick tap round, just to rebalance the energies. You can do it yourself, you can do it to somebody else, and so on. So it's a good way of working. Degaussing, I talked about day before yesterday, but it was so brief. I think several people have asked me questions about that. So I just wanted to go through that. This is a really, really useful technique. So you're using a hairdryer or another alternating motor, and it needs to be switched on. Several people didn't get that. They asked me about that. Does it need to be switched on? Yeah, you need to switch it on because it's the effect of the motor with the magnet switching between south and north that's actually doing that, having the effect on the body. So if you don't have it switched on, then it's not having that effect. So you run the motor over the body, so it's the body of the motor, so the air will be going out that way or that way, yeah? So you're running the motor over the body. You can run it on the body, but most people find that you get your clothes caught in it and things, so it's often just easier, just slightly off the body or touching very gently. All over the body, under your feet, all over your body. And if you've got metal in the body, which causes a lot of disturbances for the acupuncture system, if you've got metal anywhere in the body, then that's a particular good idea to do that. So people who've got dental amalgams, or if people have got metal hips and things like that. Sorry? Or any any implants, metal that have metal, any metal implants, very good thing to do to counteract the effect of the metal in the body. I had somebody who had gunshot wounds all in his arm from he'd been in the Korean War or something, and so we had to do quite a bit of work around that for him. So you run the motor, and it's good for lots of things. And one of the strange things it seems to be good for is people who bite their nails. And I noticed that just by, sort of telling people to do it, and people, a lot of the people I tested that they should be doing this regularly were biting their nails. And I don't know whether the nails are actually, by biting them, they were trying to ground themselves in some way. But certainly it seems to help them, if somebody is a habitual biter of their nails. So it's good for people who are sensitive to geopathic stress, electromagnetic pollution. It's good for people who get a lot of headaches or feel a bit spacey and a bit sort of, things are not quite in focus when they're going about their normal lives. So it's good for that. For people who get static electric shocks, if you get static electric shocks and do this, you will stop getting the static electric shocks, which is great. But it's also a sign, if you're getting static electric shocks, it's a sign that your body is having a problem. So you need to, it's not just beneficial in terms of the static electric shocks. It will help the overall health of your body. For people who play computer games, it's really helpful. When my sons were teenagers, one of them was very addicted to computer games, and so I used to do this to him, and I'd do it to him, and then he would stop that obsession with playing the video games. He'd still want to do it, but if I say, come and eat your food, he'd just come, rather than, oh, in a minute, I'm just, So a lot of that obsession went, which was good. I recommended this to do this to a lady who wanted to come and see me, and at the time I had a 3-month waiting list for clients to come and see me. So I said to her, look, it's going to take 3 months before I can see you, and given what you told me about your problem, I think you need to degauss. So I explained to her what she had to do, and she phoned up and cancelled the appointment because she said her problem had completely disappeared. And what her problem was is she worked in an office with lots of computers, and all day she would have really bad headaches. When she wasn't at work, she was fine. When she worked in an office with all these computers, she got the headaches. By degaussing her body on a regular basis, it stopped that. So for people with headaches, people who work a lot with computers, it's a really good thing to do. Yeah? And if you want to know whether you should do it, you can put your hand over your navel, check that you're balanced. So check you've got yes, no. Yeah? So yes. Say no, it should get sticky. Okay? And now you can ask the question, would it be appropriate for me to degauss on a regular basis? And if it's sticky, it means no, and if it's unsticky, it means yes. Okay? And then you could ask how often you should do it. Typically, when people start, they might need to do it every couple of days, then it goes to like once a week, and then it gets more and more distant that they need to do it. I used to have to do it very, very regularly. These days, I don't seem to need to do it so much, but every so often, if I get a static electric shock, I go, need to get the hairdryer out and degauss myself. So it's a really good way of finding that out. If you want to learn kinesiology, and I've just given you a little bit of introduction to some of the self-help stuff, but there's a lot more that you can learn, and it's it's really, really useful for a whole range of problems, both physical, psychological, and so on. If you email me or give me a business card, there's a very good teacher in the USA who's started to do quite a lot on the internet. So you can actually learn via the internet, which is not the best way, but if you don't have a teacher nearby, then it's a good way. So if you're interested in that information, I'll send it to you. If enough people wanted to learn some kinesiology, I mean, I'm sure I could find a teacher in the UK who'd be happy to come to India and teach people. So that would be a possibility as well. It's not me, because I've stopped teaching. I gave up teaching in 2005, and it still feels like the right thing to do, not to teach. Okay, I've written a book about kinesiology. There's a couple of copies in the shop. Let me just explain about this book. This book doesn't tell you about all these self-help techniques. It's more of a description so that you understand about the possibilities of kinesiology. It's not a how-to-do-it book. But if you want to learn when I spoke on the first day, my talk got cut short. So I wanted to just spend a bit of time briefly going through these, because people were asking me, how do you correct geopathic stress? How do you find things? So first of all, correcting geopathic stress. The obvious thing to try first of all is to move the bed or move the desk. Yeah? They are the obvious things to try, and the cheapest. You can use artifacts, things like, I didn't mean to put rods. Oh yes, I didn't mean to put, no, I didn't mean to put rods there, sorry. So things like crystals, what are the beautiful patterns that you do here? Mandalas? Is that what they're called? Yes. You could use those, either done on the ground or on card placed in particular places. There's lots of, things like that. Mirrors, placing mirrors in particular positions, or even moving an existing mirror. I had a client who had long-standing health problems ever since she'd been a small child, and she used to come to see me regularly. And she was doing really, really well, and I checked the geopathic stress in her house, and we got that all sorted. And then suddenly she started to go downhill. And she came to see me, and I did, using muscle testing, I was testing, all sorts of different things. And then I thought, well, I'll just test the geopathic stress again. So we tested whether there were geopathic problems in her house, and we got yes. And it was a problem in the bedroom. So I asked how we should fix this, and the answer came that she needed a mirror in a particular place. And when I said that, and she went, that's really interesting, because she had a wardrobe with a two-door wardrobe. One door was wood, and the other door had a mirror on the outside of it. And when I checked her house the first time, wooden door, mirrored door, right? And then, for some reason, she swapped them over. So it was now mirrored door, wooden door. And I said, when did you do that? And it was like 2 or 3 months ago. And we thought about, when did your symptoms start? When did you start to go downhill? 2 or 3 months ago. So this was a wonderfully simple thing to fix. All we did was move the doors back the other way, slid them back the other way, and I said to her, please, please, please remember, they have to be kept this way. She did that, and her health started to improve quite dramatically. So that was a really, really interesting. So mirrors, when we think about mirrors, we tend to think about what's a convenient place to put them so that we can look at ourselves in the bed, so on. But there may be specific reasons to put mirrors in particular places or not in particular places. So moving mirrors, adding mirrors is something you might want to do. Aluminium foil, sometimes you need to put some of that on a wall, and you'd need to determine how much, how wide, so on. Rods in the ground. I think I've talked to quite a few people. I think there are practitioners who do that here, put rods in the ground. Photographs. Sometimes you need to take a photograph of the house from a particular angle. It may be you need a black and white photograph, a color photograph, or even a negative of the photograph, and that you then maybe need to bury it in the ground, kept in the house somewhere. There's all sorts of possibilities with that. There are devices that people sell to correct geopathic stress, so they may be appropriate to use. Some stuff can be done by the power of the practitioner's mind, their intent to correct things. You can sometimes fix things remotely using maps by placing metal or even tiny pyramids on a map of the house, so that would be a possibility too. As I've said here, it's not a complete list because obviously I don't have the time to go through everything.